Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to show you how you can make your very own loading screen in Unity. This loading screen can be used between multiple scenes. Maybe you want the loading screen to go from your main menu to your game, or from level 1 to level 2. I'll teach you how to configure all of that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see here, I've created a pretty basic UI for a game. It has a title text, a play button, a settings button, and a credits button. However, we haven't set up the buttons yet. So what we have to do is that we have to create a script that upon pressing the play button, for example, it moves us to the loading scene. The loading scene will then display a bar that shows the progress that the computer has made to transport us to the game. So first, let's create the script that takes us to the loading screen upon pressing each button. Alright, so now what we're going to do is that I'm going to create a new empty object and call it UI Manager. This is going to be used to house the UI Manager script. So I created that UI Manager script and now I'll open it up in Visual Studio. After a couple seconds of loading, you should be ready to go. So first, I'm going to create a new public function and I'll name it onPlayButtonClicked. Public void onPlayButtonClicked. And I will create that function. Next up, inside that function, I'm going to use playerprefs. Playerprefs is kind of a universal variable storing method in Unity. So basically, we can set variables and access it from different scenes. I'm going to create the variable scene to go to, and I'm going to set it to game scene. Because obviously, when you play the button, or when you press the play button, you would want to go to the game scene. Next, I'm going to use the Unity Engine .scene management add-on or plugin. This is going to allow us to use scene manager.load scene, and we're going to use scene manager.load scene to load the scene loading screen. And basically what this is going to do is that when we press the play button, it'll take us to the loading scene, and from there it'll take us to the game scene. Alright, so next up, before doing anything else, what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to the play button object in the scene, and we're going to drag our UI manager, and we're going to add the script that we just created so that whenever we actually click the play button, the script runs. We're going to have to repeat these steps for the settings and credit button, but that's what you can do on your own. Alright, and so now we're going to go ahead and create the loading scene that we've been talking about. Let's create a new scene and call it loading scene. Now let's pull that up and start by creating the UI, the basic UI for this. So I added a canvas and an image. We'll stretch that out to cover the whole display. And I'll make it a nice color like red. This is going to be kind of our background. And so now let's go ahead and rename it to background to make it, more obvious to us. Now, once that is done, let's go ahead and create the text. Let's call it text. Let's make a text mesh pro object and type loading in it. Now I'm just going to do some style adjustments to make it fit with the theme of my game. And so we want it to stay in the center, but you can obviously customize your loading scene as you like. You can base it off other games that you played as well. So we're going to rename the actual game object for that loading text. And now with the text being complete, let's go ahead and create the actual bar itself, the loading bar that you see in apps and games. I'm going to create an image just like we had done with the background, but instead of making it stretch to the whole display, I'm going to make it a wide, thin line, just like, the average bar that you see. You can obviously customize this however you want, but I'm going to make a simple white line. So now we have to do one of the more important parts. As you can see, I changed the X pivot of my loading bar and made it 0. This is going to offset the bar's position a little bit. You can just readjust it back. What this is going to do is that when we increase the width, it'll increase it and decrease it from one direction, not both of them. So that when we write our code, it'll be much easier for us to calculate and display how much the computer has loaded. Alright, and so the last part of the UI that we're going to add to the loading scene is an outline of the bar. For this, we're simply just going to duplicate the bar and move it up in the scene like you can see I'm doing. We're going to create the duplicated bar, and we're going to make that a little bit less transparent so that it's obvious when the bar is being filled up. Alright, and so with all of that out of the way, let's create our last and final script. This will actually track the progress that the computer is making to go to the game scene. Alright, and so once you've got that script written out, open that up in Visual Studio. Start off with creating a serialized field variable called the loading bar, and let's make that a normal game object. Then in the start function, let's start the coroutine load asynchronously, which we will define later. Now let's go to load asynchronously. Let's create that coroutine. So in the beginning, let's create an async operation, and we'll make it scene manager load async player prefs.get string scene to go to, and that player prefs.get string scene to go to is getting the variable that we set originally about the scene that we have to go to. One thing that I do want you guys to keep in mind is that in the top you should definitely write using Unity engine.scene management, because that is the plugin or add-on which allows us to load scenes in Unity. And after that, let's create that while loop, and while that async operation isn't done, let's create a progress variable, and we're gonna do some math about this. It's kind of just Unity's inbuilt code is a little bit different than what you would intuitively think about, so we're gonna have to clamp that, and then in that we'll put operation.progress divided by 0.9. Alright, and so that will be kind of our number of progress. It's on a scale of 0 to 100. Now, with that information, let's go loading bar.transform.local scale. So we're editing the local scale of the loading bar, and let's set it to a new vector 3. The first, the x of that would be the progress, and the rest, the y and the z, they'll just be the previous variables that we're just going to leave those untouched. And at the end, let's just say yield return null, just so that we can satisfy its coroutine requirement. After all of that, you should be pretty much good to go. Alright, and so before this thing works, let's add a couple more finishing touches. Let's drag that loading bar into the loading bar script. And what you're going to want to do for each scene that you have in your game, you want to go to the build settings, and then you're going to want to click add open scene. Let's repeat this. Let's do this for the game scene. Let's add that open scene. Now let's go back to our main menu and do that for that scene as well. Alright, and so once that is done, we are ready to test this out. Alright, so let's click that play button. And as you can see, it did load. It loaded really quickly, but that's just because my computer is pretty fast. I hope it worked for you. And as always, I encourage you guys to add something special to your project. Thanks for watching.